You only need 3 arpeggios to make your solos sound like real jazz, but most students never learn them and get stuck practicing the wrong things. So in this video, I'm gonna show you the 3 arpeggios that I've used to help thousands of my students play real jazz solos and exactly what to practice so your solos flow through the song and sound like the artists you love. Let me show you what I mean. Here's a 2-5-1 in C major, and this is how most people solo, but it doesn't really sound like jazz. But if you use the 3 arpeggios, the exact same chords sound like this. I'll teach you to use all 3 in this video, but if you are waiting for a secret C7, flat 5, sharp 11, that's not it. This is about how you play the arpeggios so that they actually sound like jazz. The problem with the first example isn't the notes. It is that it sounds like an exercise, not like real jazz. And most students practice arpeggios as full positions, but in real solos, arpeggios show up as 1-octave fragments. Short, practical sounds that you can use anywhere. Now look at this Joe Pass solo. He's playing arpeggios all over the place, but only the 1-octave version. And this is where it gets confusing because Joe Pass actually insists that he doesn't use arpeggios at all.
First of all, I use very little arpeggios, so you would hear very little of in my playing.
That always puzzled me until I realized what he means. Don't just run arpeggios up and down like exercises. Use them as a melody, which is what you'll learn in this video. So here's the practice plan. Forget the full positions for a second. Build your 1-octave arpeggios like this in the C major scale. The first step is really easy. Just play the scale. For the second step, now play the scale in thirds, because arpeggios are really just stacked thirds. And step 3, if you stack 2 thirds, you've got diatonic triads. That's this. Add the 7th, and now you've got the diatonic 7th chord arpeggios. And remember that the 7th chords are really the foundation of all jazz harmony. Just look at what is in the real book. Now you've got this exercise. This is a classic Barry Harris approach, and that's also where I learned it. And it is the foundation for the 3 arpeggio moves I'm about to show you. Now, instead of trying to memorize these exercises from the video, grab the free PDF in the description, then you can take your time and get them under your fingers. The first arpeggio move is one that you've heard 1,000 times in jazz. The triplet arpeggio. It instantly adds energy to your lines. You already know this sound. Move number 1 is something jazz players use constantly because it instantly adds energy and breaks up straight 8th note lines so that your solos don't sound boring. Listen for a quick triplet burst. It pops out of the line. First, Barney Kessel on rhythm changes. Or Charlie Parker, who actually uses 2 triplet arpeggios in this clip from his solo on Au Privé. And finally, this great George Benson lick from his solo on Billy's Bounce. And if you're in any way interested in jazz guitar, you definitely need to know that solo. Different players, same arpeggio move. All 3 of these examples use the arpeggio as a triplet with the leading note. And something that's very important, this isn't a new arpeggio, it is just a way to play any arpeggio and make it sound like jazz. This is so useful that you want to practice it for all arpeggios. And you can just take it through the scale, like this. Quick note, if you want a step-by-step plan and my help getting this into your playing on a real jazz standard, check out my roadmap course. Over 7,000 students have gone through it, and you can get feedback on your progress in the community. Link in the description. Now, learning that triplet move from Barry Harris was mind-blowing. Now, let's go to move number 2, because this one gives your lines an instant twist with some interval magic. Okay, move number 1 was the triplet burst. Move number 2 makes your lines sound more melodic because the arpeggio changes direction. This is called a pivot arpeggio. And just like the first move, it's not a new arpeggio, it is a way to play the arpeggios that you already know so they sound better, sound like real jazz. Let's keep it simple with a C major 7 arpeggio. So here's the regular C major 7 arpeggio. Now the pivot part of this is really that you take the first note, the C, and move that up an octave. So instead of starting with just playing a regular stack of thirds, you start up here and then skip back down. This large interval skip makes it more surprising to the listener and less like running an arpeggio because it gives you an instant change of direction. You'll hear this all over jazz, especially Grant Green uses this a lot, and here's an example from his solo on You Stepped Out of a Dream. And here's Joe Pass using it in the pickup for his Just Friends solo. Once you know the sound, you'll start hearing it everywhere, which will also help make it easier to get it into your playing. And both of these are also hinting at move number 3, but we'll get there. Here's the practice shortcut for pivot arpeggios. Take your 1 octave arpeggio exercise, and for each arpeggio, move the root up 1 octave to make them pivot arpeggios. That gives you this. Just play it slowly, try to hear it and make it sound like a phrase, not just a pattern. Now let's put it into music on a 2-5-1. Listen for the pivot arpeggios on G7 and C major 7. This is such a strong melodic tool. Can you hear how it instantly gives you a stronger melody and a catchy flow? That is why this works. Now remember that if you want the lick written out so you can practice it slowly, grab the free PDF, there's a link in the description. So with the pivot arpeggio, we kept the same arpeggio and changed how it moves. Now let's do the opposite. Keep the same chord, but switch to a different arpeggio. Now here's the fun part. There's usually more than one arpeggio that fits the same chord. And what is great about this is that if you practice diatonic arpeggios, you already have these shapes in your fingers. You're just learning more places to use them. And this isn't a new chord or a new scale, it's a move. You play an arpeggio built from the third of the chord and it gives you a richer jazz sound instantly. I'll break it down and then show you some examples from famous jazz players. Let's use C major 7 again. So the C major 7 arpeggio is C, E, G and B. Now here's the trick. Start on the third of that chord, so the E. Now the arpeggio here is an E minor 7. That gives you E, G, B and D. And here's the cool part. Over C major 7, those are still chord tones. It's the third, the fifth and the seventh, plus a D, which is a ninth, and a really strong color note on a major chord. So now your C major 7 lines can sound like this. And you've actually already heard this in action in this video. In the Barney Kessel example, that D minor 7 shape is being played over a B flat major 7 chord. So that is this exact idea. And in the Charlie Parker example, he's using a B flat major 7 arpeggio over a G minor 7 chord. This is everywhere in jazz. Let's hear it on a 2-5-1 in C major, first as an exercise and then a real jazz line. As an exercise to get the arpeggios into your system, you can play through the 2-5-1 using first the basic arpeggio and then the one from the third. Super easy, barely an inconvenience. Sounds like this. And when you start mixing these 3 moves, you get classic jazz language very fast. Listen to this. So move number 3 is more than one arpeggio fits a chord, and starting from the third is the easiest place to begin. Now you already saw it. This is all over the playing of the jazz grades. It's not a trick. It is real jazz language. And if you want a step-by-step plan for getting this into your own soloing, applied to a real standard, the roadmap course is linked below. If you want to go deeper with Barry Harris, there's one exercise that makes all of this show up in your solos on real songs. I break it down step by step in this video. It is the thing that stops scales and arpeggios from sounding mechanical and gives you real jazz vocabulary. Check it out, learn jazz, make music.